insightful panel discussion addressing the challenges of evolving tax regulation compliance in India, navigating constant changes and interpretation. For that, I would like to call our moderator for the session, Ms. Sneha Pai, Senior Director, Direct Tax Nexdigm. With more than a decade of experience, Ms. Sneha is one of the tax leaders at Nexdigm and manages business tax services with diversified clients spanning across sizes and sectors. She harnesses her expertise in corporate and international tax, foreign exchange management, and company law to devise solutions that help organizations achieve their goals. She is integral in developing tax advisory services, including tax litigation and representation, tax compliance, project management, and client delivery. Along with her, I would like to call all our fellow panelists, Mr. Sabyasachee Das, Tax Head Corporate and Indirect Tax Compliance, GSK Pharmaceuticals, Mr. Raghupati Mishra, President and Country CFO, Liberty Steel Group, Mr. Pulkit Goyal, CFO, Honeywell Automation India, Mr. Partha, VP Finance, Lenze, Ms. Nikita Hurkat, GST Head, STL, Sterlite Technologies Limited, Mr. Vora, Head of Tax and SAP Business Process India Region, Evonik India Private Limited. Can we have a huge round of applause for all panelists? Please.
This session, panel discussion, and we have a very interesting panel sitting out here. Since morning, we've heard that there have been a lot of changes in taxes. Compliance has been one of the focus areas of the governments worldwide. India has not been far behind. We have had number of changes in the last decade itself, and especially after COVID, we've seen a significant transition in the way government is looking at taxes, the way the government is looking at compliances, and looking at plugging in loopholes in taxation. So without getting much into, without much delay, let me ask Mr. Mishra to take over and discuss what are the key challenges that businesses have been facing due to these frequent tax regulation changes that we have been seeing in the last couple of years.
Hello, good afternoon everybody. It's a pleasure to be being here amongst you, and thank you for the organizers for inviting me from Mumbai to here. So, as Sneha asked the question, what are the issues that is facing and the changes and what is the mechanism and all in taxation, both direct and indirect taxes. So, if you see, what is tax? Why government is taking tax? What is the concept? So basically, the concept is that there is a government, there are people, and there is a government. The government has to run certain welfare schemes and the administration. For that, they need funds. For that, they are saying, you do business, you have some manufacturing or some services, and you earn profit, and you share a portion of it to us. This is what basically is all taxation is about, right? So, but that's not so in our country. भाव ऐसा नहीं है सरकार का. उसमें यह है कि मुझे तो लेना ही है, जैसे भी हो, और तुम्हें देना है, और जैसे मैं बोलूं वैसे देना है. चाहे तुमको देने में भी तकलीफ आए, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, तुम्हें देना तो है भाई. ये भाव है. मैं हिंदी में इसलिए बोला कि आप मेरी भावनाओं को कैच कर सकें, ठीक से कनेक्ट कर सकें. तो ये है. तो if I answer you correctly, what are this? If I take GST, starting from registration, one of my friend who is a chartered accountant himself doing practice at Mumbai and all, he was incorporating a partnership firm. So there is a portal, then you have to do all kind of documentation there. There is a list which may go up to this thing. Except for the blood report, everything else you have to provide there. Or a DNA report for that purpose. Right. And then you have this Aadhaar verification, your PAN verification. There will be OTPs which will come to your mobile number, will to your email ID and everything you are doing. Then also there are rejections. And the rejection are for phony reasons. उसका कोई मतलब नहीं. One rejection that the first rejection he got is that your mobile number is not matching with what you have provided. However, the portal only takes when you have given the OTP, otherwise it rejects. So it has accepted and still this has come. The second time he got the rejection that the electricity bill that you have provided, what is the name of that service provider? There is a large electricity bill, Maharashtra State Electricity Board with red writing that has been uploaded there. They are not able to read that. Right. This is 15 days ago story I am telling you, not much older. Then this guy, as he is a chartered accountant in practice, we all understand how it happens. So he went there, met the state tax officer there, and then everything was set up. As we do. There is interpersonal skills and negotiation skills are required, not any taxation skills. Right. So that's how practically it is possible. So a registration for GST is basically why somebody is asking for. Because he wants to pay taxes. But the government or the government mechanism, not everybody, are doing in such a way that पैसा देने में भी दिक्कत है, लेने में भी गवर्नमेंट को दिक्कत है. इसलिए मैंने पहले यही बोला कि मुझे तो लेना है और जैसे चाहूँगा वैसे लूँगा. तुमने तो देना ही है. That's how it is for registration. Second thing, that if for an organization, if you have paid GST, somebody has raised an invoice on you for 100 rupees, you have paid 18 rupees is a GST. Now when you are claiming that for input credit, the other person has not filed the return or erroneously filed or filed correctly, but the system is erroneous or something is happening, so I will not get it. So the onus lies on me, even if I have paid the taxes. This is the biggest, if you can say that, misnomer and unfair thing that is there. Then there are procedural things, plethora of forms, this way, that way. Some forms are not happening, some are not happening. That they will take 15 days if you go for there, that is there. And then, quite like the government tax rates, that is the GST rates are there. The government, all the governments, because GST is basically all state government and central government put together, they are getting greedy. If you recall 3-4 years ago, we achieved the target for India of 1 lakh crore. By some massive celebrations, 1 lakh crore पहुंच गया GST, otherwise 70, 75, 80, 90 तक जा रहा. अभी 1,75,000, 1,80,000 करोड़ हो रहा है. लेकिन एसेंशियल आइटम्स में कोई रेट स्लैब में कमी नहीं आ रही. मतलब लालच बुरी बला है भाई, ये समझना पड़ेगा. मतलब the government, all governments, and you see the minutes of the meeting and what they release in the GST Council, that they are not open for lowering any this thing of essential items. Even last GST meeting, if you see, they are not into lowering. So these are the things that the organizations are facing. If the organizations are let to be doing their business only, if the government lets them to do business only, I think we will prosper more. Thank you.
That's a very practical view on the way government is looking at implementing and collecting taxes, but in the process making it a little more bureaucratic for even businesses, because the businesses are now ending up incurring higher costs only in compliances and getting things and getting the taxes paid itself. So continuing on this GST front, Ms. Nikita, do you want to, talk about the changes that are happening in the GST front? Since GST was implemented, I think we've had more notifications than the number of days it's been in place. So, and those notifications only seem to complicate the GST laws and the way they are being implemented. So any thoughts on how businesses are dealing with it?
Yeah, so thank you for the question, and thanks for organizing this event and inviting me for this session. So answering to your question, and I'll just agree with him. What is said is yes, GST, for GST specifically in the recent days, while taking the registration, first of all, I'll just say, even we face this challenge while obtaining the registration. When I was taking the registration for one of my subsidiary, and I was usually we used to take an NOC for that registration from the earlier parent company. But now the officers are asking for the original lease agreement of my parent company. The initial GST number was issued by them, and basis that I'm getting the number for my subsidiary. But now they're asking both the things. So it's really a dilemma that they're challenging their own number which they have issued earlier, and now we are facing the challenge to get the number for the other subsidiary also. So coming back to the question, the changes, yes, there are many changes. If I have to say that the ultimate measure of a man is not tested in a comfort. It is tested specifically when he is in the challenging situation. And so I think we all agree that this is, being in the tax fraternity area, we all agree that yes, this is the only area where we are all facing the challenges. First of all, there are multiple GST councils which are going on. They come with some proposal. All proposals, I don't know whether they'll get implemented in the form of notification, yes or no. There are certain, once that notification comes, then there is another aspect, yes, that is whether it is got notified or not. Then we'll have to keep tracking all these changes, monitoring all these changes. Definitely a person is required who will go on just identifying, yes, this was the council amendment which was proposed, this is the changes which has happened, and yes, this got notified. So this is, in this manner, multiple things are happening on day-to-day basis. And one of the example, I think, which we all were interacting last time was for the 180 days thing, where the council has recommended for 180 days, it was past July 20 GST council, that for 180 days, interest levy will be removed. But till date, we are in 24. Till date, that has not yet notified. So there are so many aspects that we are facing in day-to-day challenges. Now, suddenly, the GST authorities have come up with IMS. In a span of 1 month, we all are expected to implement that IMS, and I don't know how far the GST portal will be ready to accept all these changes. There will be so many transactions which will be hitting the portal. I hope it should not get turned into an e-waybill initial scenario when it has happened that the entire portal got crashed and then again it was revamped. So that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, IMS is a very big move from the GST perspective, and I think soon businesses will be seen running behind getting the IMS system set up. Here I'll bring in Mr. Viral. From a direct tax perspective, there are a lot of changes in TDS provisions and this. Anything specific you would have seen in your businesses with respect to implementing direct taxes perspective?
Yeah. So from the perspective of rate change, we have seen a lot of changes have happened in this budget which was released in July. In terms of that the rates were rationalized for few of the provisions of the TDS law. One other important change that happened was, in terms of filing your correction returns in TDS. You now have a time limit. Until now, you are still able to, revise your correction returns for last 10 years, 15 years. I just remember that we filed revised return for 2010. There was some correction which was required. But now with this new provision coming into the law, you just have 6 years. And post that, you will not be able to, revise any of your correction returns. So this is one point to be noted, that if there are any defaults which are there on the Traces website for your past years, I think that is something that each one of us should take note of and file the correction returns or see if there are any pending default notices which are there and resolve it. I think the time limit is there up to 31st of March 25. So we have this short period of time where we need to, and the other challenge is whenever you go and file the correction return, you have a new default which comes in. So it's better that you start now and 6 months time you are able to resolve it. So, and hopefully there's no extension. So yeah, this was 1 or 2 points that are addressable, I would say.
Absolutely. So yeah, many changes, direct taxes also, indirect taxes also, many timelines that have come in and many things that need to be taken care of on a real-time basis, So these taxes we know are below the line. GST, you get input tax credit. Many times, often it gets ignored. You know, अरे GST में तो input tax credit मिल ही जाएगा. I can incur that cost. Doesn't matter. But someone in the earlier panel mentioned, you know, that board is now looking at those taxes. Taxes do play a significant role in taking commercial decisions. So, Mr. Goyal, if you know, I would like to see your views. These changes that are there, how are they affecting businesses in their long-term financial planning? And is the board taking note of it? And to what extent should the board really be worried about these changes? And how should they be looking at it?
Sure. Thank you for the question. Thank you, Gain Skills, for having me over here. In a lighter note, I think this is the most privileged panel having one mic, you know, each member, which I had not seen. So I can see Mitali wants us also to efficiently finish the discussion. Well, you know, I think a lot of emotions we have seen in this discussion so far and also the previous panel. Let me also try to bring another element. I'll try to be as unemotional as possible. The first one is, I'm sure some of you are already aware. Do you know how much of the amount is stuck in litigation? And I'm not differentiating between GST and corporate tax or wealth tax or I don't know, so many other taxes. I mean, though I'm a CFO, but I still don't know how many zeros it has. I mean, I cannot say 10 trillion Indian rupees. And those who understand dollars better, $100 billion plus. Imagine the amount of resources that are going into it. And I'm now going to take you, a couple of steps down. When I say resources, not just the resources, in our corporate offices, also on the government side. Also imagine the amount of cash that is locked up. One of the parties can benefit. I'm not saying who, either corporate or the tax department authorities. Third one, banks as well. I'm sure a reasonable portion of it is also secured by government, by bank guarantees or other, corporate guarantees that have been given. I think from my perspective, these are really, really important as well as scarce resources. And then yesterday's panel, and yesterday's conference, which was organized by Standard Chartered, we were talking about China +1 and India will take over China. I mean, these are the things which we need to really address. Most of you must have also learned in your, I would say, during your education, as well as also in your corporate life, that micromanagement is something, not good. I think as so far I have learned this, and I think none of us also enjoy our managers micromanaging. To me, I know I'm getting recorded and I don't care. Government is coming very close to almost micromanaging. And I think, again, I'll keep quoting, the previous panel. I think they also mentioned about it. I think it was you sitting there from Z, that we know how to do the business. Tell us how much tax do we need to pay. We pay, and let's be efficient about it. Let's not discuss, belabor, as also Raghu just mentioned about, the negotiation, etc. I think we need to, this is where I feel are, I think, the pain points. And honestly speaking, and now I try to answer your question, Sneha, so far the tax has been a very holy function. Okay, my colleagues, many of them are sitting here already. So if they used to tell the business, yeah, this is the provision that we have to make, businesses don't like it, but they will accept it because they don't want to challenge them. Again, the previous panel, which kind of talked about, changing that mindset of not just, sitting on a huge pile of, a tax provision or reserves, but we need to really work on unlocking it. And by the way, in our company, and it's a public data, you can see last 3 or 4 years annual report. We had litigations running into 3 to 4 full A4 size pages. We are working on it, to kind of reduce it. And you can see the data, I think we reduced it to almost half, both in value as well as number of line items. I think so this is one thing, and good thing is on the board. Board is interested in knowing what's our plan of action. And incidentally, in our organization, we coined a term, we call it pre-GST Mukt Hail or Honeywell. So that is the a way we are also working on it to see that how we. I mean, you can start focusing on GST only when you have your old cases resolved. And by the way, most of the litigations are kind of pertaining to the earlier regime. So that's one challenge that we see. Good thing is board is invested and they want the finance function, including tax, to take decisive action. The second change that I see, businesses are asking more and more. Good that you're now showing me the entire reserves that you have. Tell me how much of it can go to the P&L. So it is also, our tax team is also being challenged to see that, okay, don't take the most comfortable position, but see if we can take a calculated risk or a little bit aggressive risk, and then we kind of unlock that money. Again, our amount is, of course, very, very small portion of the $10 trillion that I talked about, but that's another good thing that's happening on the board side. Third, of course, is the frequent changes we have spoken about. I was actually looking up what approximately 800 odd notifications have come in GST alone in last 7 odd years. That's a lot. And 500,000 litigations which are pending. 80% of them are at the commissioner appeal level itself. 90% of them are actually appealed by the authorities itself. So I mean, somewhere someone needs to really sit, evaluate, and I think unlock that huge value that is kind of stuck there. So the same question I can see is coming up in the board again and again. And the last is, of course, the changes kind of make board a little bit worried about potential, misses on compliances, also the cost of compliances. As you are sitting and making your plan, and again, that's your second part of the question, how does it impact the long-term planning? These factors do impact how I, do my annual operating plan. And when I go and tell, or the team goes and tell the businesses, especially the global leaders, that, yeah, actually I didn't know, but, we have to make a reserve of, say, $500,000, it is kind of very difficult for them to digest. So from my perspective, I think this needs to, there has to be some sense of credibility and reliability. For me, it's also an infrastructure issue, ease of doing business. Whatever laws, regulations that we have, they need to have some element of prediction. If somebody makes a mistake, I think tax authorities also need to understand that what's the intent behind it. And I can quote another example, and before I hand over my mic back to Sneha. We had in my previous organization an issue with the transfer pricing, and it was outside of India. And the topic was like this, that there were regional offices set up across the globe, and all costs were picked up by the headquarters, which is sitting outside of India. I think it went on, the total cost must be in double-digit million euros. And the tax authorities went to the headquarters. They says, look, you are at a group level already loss-making, or you have your carry-forward losses, and then you're picking up such a huge cost from the regions, which actually serving, your countries or the entities spread across. Please explain to me, why do you think it is right? It was, of course, a partially right approach, but you know how tax authorities then agreed? They said, okay, this fiscal year you will continue doing what you're doing. Let's agree on the principle. Next year onwards, this is what you're going to follow. And it was changed. There was no discussion on, please show me all your 10 years data. I want to quiz people. I want to, investigate. They agreed on a principle. Of course, the method was changed and all was good. I think that maturity, in my view, we need to bring in. At the same time, I don't just want to beat tax authorities here. I think we also as an Indian need to be a little bit less creative and, follow the rule of the law as well. I think it goes both ways. Thank you.
Yes, I think being less creative is, it's a very nice term to put it. When you touched upon the litigation front, CIT appeals and the matters that are pending today, I think significant orders are pending at CIT appeals level also. I don't think in the last 2 years we've had any CIT appeal order coming in for whatever, various reasons. And most decisions are taken only at the tribunal level. So when I go and advise, I'm like, do not factor if the tax officer is going to challenge it. Any relief you should expect only at the tribunal level. It's only till there, because the tax department, I think ownership at the tax department is lacking, because everything ends up being in the tribunal, either by the assessee or by the tax department. So, because of COVID, or maybe in the plan, and coincidentally with COVID, government went faceless with assessments and, the way they were handling appeals and assessments. So, Mr. Partha, here I would like to seek your views. How has your your experience been with faceless and...
Yeah, I think you have touched a very interesting subject, that is COVID. COVID has changed practically our lives and also the way we think about tax. Before coming on the subject, which let me give a small introduction. Actually, I am heading a company called Lenze Mechatronics. It's a German company with about 250 crores turnover, and our company is headquartered. The parent company is headquartered in Germany and based across 53 countries across the world. They are gradually thinking of their major establishments other than Europe is in US and in China, and they are thinking how to start growing India now in a big way. Now, before COVID, actually, our company was started about 12 years back, and they have given an initial funding, and after that, they have given ECBs, which were supposed to be paid on a timely basis. See the business challenge during COVID. Our business was completely down. Our cash flows were down, and in fact, whatever cash flows we had, we wanted to retain it because we did not know how long the COVID condition will continue. And this has affected the payment on the ECBs. And also, ECBs to pay out requires some level of documentation. Half the people were either sick or not coming to office regularly. So we had some problems, challenges, and there were some payments had to be rescheduled. HSBC is our banker, and they came up and said, "Look, this is a problem with you and all." So I had taken up with the board, persuading them, okay, if we move from ECB to share capital, this issue you will never face any payment issue at all in future, because we will not pay for it at all. So anyway, they agreed on that, and they said, fine, we don't have, you can convert it into share capital. Okay, then we decided, we had taken up and moved into share capital, and then there was a face value of shares, and then there was a premium. Now the question of premium, on the premium, now you have to pay tax. So what do we do? So and then we approached the board in Germany and said that, look, you have to pay us slightly more because we have to pay premium on the conversion. Say that, what is this? We have paid you now. You're just converting the loan to equity, and you want to pay tax on that? That's crazy. So finally, Deloitte was our consultants, and they finally consulted and said that, look, you don't have to pay premium because it's a loan conversion. There's a high court case in Himachal Pradesh wherein any loan to equity conversion, if there's a premium involved, premium shares are involved, there's no need to pay tax. So ultimately, I was happy that finally we could avoid the tax. Okay, then now it's converted to equity shares, so relaxed, and then the year end comes, and then dividend has to be paid. So again, there is a tax on dividend. So I go back to the board and said, look, we have to pay dividend, but we'll deduct 20% of this, whatever we are paying. So they were like, what is this you're talking about? Why did you convert? At least we are getting the interest. Now you want to convert it, and then again you are holding back taxes. So basically what I am trying to say is that we are talking about moving businesses on one side from China and Brazil and other European countries to India, which is good. But on the other side, the ease of doing business, okay, on paper it looks like 62, but the real situation from the multinational perspective is not very good, not very conducive. They are saying that for everything, if you have to pay tax in India, then there is what sense? If from our investments also you are taking away tax. So this is a big problem for us. Now, again, probably you are aware that for income generated in India, we were supposed to file tax returns for our sister companies which are not based in India. 2 years back, government has removed that. Okay, fine, you don't have to file tax returns in India as long as you pay TDS. There's no issue on filing tax returns. But unfortunately, I don't know, they forgot to remove the transfer pricing part of it. So we are not filing tax return. Now, tax is an easier job, but doing the transfer pricing for all those companies or sister companies whom we are sending royalty or any other payments, for them to do the transfer pricing in India and then submit report, and then for that you require a master file and so many other things. I mean, this is actually not creating a very conducive atmosphere. Tax is becoming gradually a barricade for them in thinking about investments in India. So practically government should consider this, and if they want to increase investments in India, they have to think about how to regulate the tax to make it easier to invest in India rather than enjoying from the money which they are investing in India. Yeah? There's another question you asked.
Yeah, I asked you about the faceless assessments and the experience around it.
Yeah, it's like almost, my experience was that it was almost like a call center, right? When you call up, they said, okay, fine, you please dial 1. And then you go to dial 1 and then they say that, okay, they'll give you 5, 6 queries and then you can dial 4 and then they'll move from 4, you go on to another 1 and 2 and all, and ultimately there is an OTP that has to be mentioned, and by the time you finish all that, the OTP is gone, the timing of the OTP is gone, so you start again, right? So and the top of it, even if you could reach the ultimate person, he will ultimately say that, look, I am not the relevant person, I will address this. You call up after some time. So you call up after some time and that person is gone, another person takes up the call and you start again, the whole discussion. So this is what is faceless right now. I think, I won't say it is wrong, but I think something good has happened also in the faceless, that earlier we had to start bribing from the base level. Now maybe you have to not do it at the base level. So, but the faceless has come up with much more challenges in the sense that even you go on submitting queries, you do not know whether the person is understanding, not understanding. They come up with funny requirement of documents. They come up with, as somebody has said, as you said, that they require what has happened in 2010 and 2012, and what is the global agreement and so many other things. And you submit that and it goes on and on and on, and you have nobody to really address. So there should be some sort of a regulation that after 4 or 5 times you have answered, you will be directed to somebody whom you can address. So I think it's a big challenge. We are trying to digitalize, but we are in the halfway of digitalization. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, CPC also, you call them up and we go round and round. I don't think any resolution ever comes through CPC. So, yeah, coming to now, Sabyasachee, Mr. Sabyasachee, on the GST front, government introduced AARs, trying to give some relief to taxpayers. Okay, you can go to an AAR, seek clarity and, pay GST accordingly so you don't end up with litigation later on. Governments, and then ARs were at state level, right? So then there were interpretational issues at states. One state saying GST applicable, other state saying a contrary view. What has been your experience around AR, and could it be more effective?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Best wishes to the esteemed panel. It has been very, on a very serious note, Mr. Raghupati, Mr. I must acknowledge, generally after lunch, somebody from the panel will say, now it will be very difficult to keep you awake, all that. I think it didn't happen. A very important message he landed in a very, in a very lighter note. I think people who were to receive, they received it on the right tone. And again, going to Pulkit, very serious data point to the room. And of course, before I come to AR, it's a very structured conversation. I'll come to there. Recently, I have zero experience on AR. The company I work for, we have never experienced. But I can, this reminds me of my first job. It happens to be one of the downstream oil company. I joined Hindustan Petroleum and that's the year, just a year after I joined, VAT came and I was posted in Vizag refinery. The gentleman, so for something we had to appear before the authority for advanced ruling. One of the special commissioner, that time Andhra Pradesh reorganization didn't happen. So she was, I don't remember whether it was a single member authority or a bench. All that he said, without wasting your time, he heard us and we were accompanied by a very senior counsel. I'm not naming him. Later he became the Solicitor General of the country. He said, look, he told my boss, I mean the person who was representing from the company, he said, you guys are an agent, you are collecting money from the market. So that's your status. The rest all is rhetorics. So somebody pointed out the government has a constitutional right to levy tax and it is our statutory obligation to pay. So therefore, that foundational truth is not going to go away no matter what law we have. I mean, what kind of a substantive or procedural law that we have. But that's a very, very, high-level philosophical statement I just made. But all I'm saying, if we try to see that we get all our resolution through an administrative authority, that doesn't even happen with the judicial forum, so let alone at the administrative reform. So here, I might sound a bit sadist, but we all know under GST, the formation is such, there is absolutely no judicial representation. So that itself rules out the fact that you will find a very unbiased or a very fair adjudication to your matter. And they're not, and at the end of it, these all are very, very experienced. Some of you I know personally. So there's no point in sounding preachy, which I don't have any legitimacy. But the fact is, I think most of all would agree that the tax folks, I mean, the administrators are not a pleasant lot to deal with in this country. So therefore, and it takes us to the origin of tax in this country. See, the income tax, that came in 1860. 1961, we might all refer, but 1861, after the Sepoy Mutiny in 1857, Government of India suffered a lot of losses. So to recover that loss, that is how the first finance minister of this country, William James or something, so he introduced the tax. Similarly, in Madras presidency, when C. Raghupati was the chief minister of the Madras state, that time it was Madras state, he brought the prohibition of liquors. So once he brought prohibition, despite all the resistance from within, so there are a lot of shortages of resources, that is how the tax was come. So that is how the sales tax and income tax has come to this country. So therefore, any shortfall to the treasury, to the has to be funded by tax. So therefore, somebody already made that point. So now government would always, so to find a relief from a tax ecosystem is something too much to ask for. Now, whether you want to do a surgery without anesthesia or you want to do it under anesthesia, that is something often we are not given the choices. Now, coming to the question with this pretext, advance AR in GST context, we have seen very, very conflicting judgment that coming out of, and there are fundamental flaw to the way it works, including its setup. And I don't want to waste room's time to tell you through that because while GST, we all understand the principle, the structure is uniform, but because of its, the way it is administered, the same set of people without much change in their mindset, they're the people who are on ground to implement. So therefore, we are not going to see a very different form of tax the way it was sold to us. That's number one. Number two, coming specific to the AR, very, very disturbing trend came up whether it was on the director's remuneration or even the canteen service or even the composite supply. Not to call out, the Maharashtra AR has been notorious. If you see all the judgment that has come in of late, So most of the, barring few, the Maharashtra has always taken a very pro-revenue position. So the signal that it sends is that there is absolutely no point to knock at the door of a forum which is not ready to see anything. I mean, the first thing they say, do you have a cause of action? So why have you come here? And at the very purpose of your constitution is somebody is coming to you to seek a clarification, to avoid a future litigation. So that purpose stands frustrated from the day zero. So they are already predisposed. So they have already decided from your paper that which way, it's only a matter of time, so they announce it. But now whether that has been absolutely of any use, yes, it is, but not often. So I am not a great advocate of that way of working. At least you are losing on time, but then people still, you still hope against hope, and you still move to them. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, the way it comes out, too many changes, too many things happening. It seems to be confusing for industry to adapt to all these changes. The government has also, I mean, while they brought in changes, COVID came in and they brought in a lot of changes in the law, they also have brought in a lot of digitalization in this law. So, right from filing return of income to the faceless assessments to getting AIS statements to GST reconciliations, now IMS, everything seems to go online and digitalized. So obviously industry also has to be digitalized and cannot stay far behind, because now they keep throwing you reports with certain reconciliations. Okay, just reconcile these two numbers and give, and then you are left, searching for those numbers the way it was explained earlier. So industry, of course, has to adopt to this technology and all. Very briefly, Mr. Goyal, I'll take views from three of them because this is industry, how they are implementing it. So, Mr. Goyal, Mr. Vora and Ms. Nikita, if you can tell, share your experiences on how your businesses are adopting technology and AI to implement these changes and adapt to the changes.
Sure. Thanks for the question. I am also mindful of the remaining time, so I'll try keep it simple. Yeah, I think probably, the previous discussions would have brought a lot of, I would say, stress, in the mind of the people here. But the good thing is that the technology and AI, and you have seen already a lot of use cases here in the room and also outside. And given these changes, and this is what I always say as well in my office too, that raise also the game when it comes to our tax compliances or tax administration. So we divided into three parts. When it comes to using the technology, one is compliance, and for sure that is given. Nobody will get brownie points for being 100% compliant. So I think that is the bread and butter task of finance function. And we use, of course, technology. We have tools, of course, the third-party tools. In the past, we had our own tool to manage and push those compliances. So that way we maintain a real-time inventory and update of what has changed and or what is no longer relevant or what has come new. And the second piece is around what we call as litigation. Litigation is part and partial of living the tax life. So here as well, we try to use the technology to, of course, also decipher the previous notices that have come. What is the trend that we see in those notices, and create our own repository. And at the same time also apply those changes in our system itself so that we can indeed reduce the litigation. I think litigations will always be there. We are happy to engage into a meaningful discussion when it comes to such potential non-compliances. So that's what we try to do, minimize, as some of you also mentioned, that there are trivial issues. So we try to address them through our repository as much as we can by using the tool. The third and the last, where I won't say we have used a lot of technology yet, we call it like business partnering. And again, going with the same theme which I talked about a few minutes ago, eventually we have to partner the business as well. So that piece, we kind of try address it. While we use technology but not the tools, we have created a portal, which acts as sort of a help desk for the non-tax folks, and create a repository of frequently asked questions, as well as, and we are looking at further automating, implementing AI, which can answer the question, through the large language modules. And also what we try to do and that's our plan going forward, to have e-learning as well, and also make certain trainings mandatory for the business. See, none of the functions can operate in isolation. So we try by this third segment of tax, try to educate as many people as we can. I think that these are the 3 ways we try to do that.
Interesting. So, Mr. Vora, you want to take it up?
Yeah, I would say in these times of litigation, most of the questions that we see from either the GST department or from the direct tax department, it's mostly, all factual based. It's mostly, asking reconciliation, numbers reported between, 2 documents, trying to ask the reconciliation and trying to ask, why this difference exists. And to reply to those queries, you need to be prepared, and for that you need tools. When we look at the notices which come from the GST department, they are using RPAs and robots to say, bots, and even an internet of time, kind of a technology to generate the information and then get the notices out and then asking assessees to reply. And if we are not prepared or if we are not using these technologies which are available in the market, I think to reply to those questions, it becomes difficult, and you take a lot of time to reply to the notices. What I see in general, there are 2 aspects of digital, implementing tax tools. One is on digitization, and one is a digitalization of your tools. So digitization, I would mean you are just, your manual processes you are converting into, a kind of a report which helps you to do the compliance. But now is the time that, we start using this. We saw a lot of tools in the morning, offered by various vendors, wherein they spoke of AI, ML, machine learning, RPA bots, which they are using to, do an analysis of the data which is sitting into your system and trying to find out the errors which do happen into your system. And that is what will make you prepared for the future, because government has started using it. I would say from an industry perspective, I see we are there somewhere, but not completely. So I think time has come to, build that gap so that we are prepared enough and we are able to reply on time using these technologies. And when I check, there are a lot of Indian players as well who are, having these tools on offer, and which may not be huge. But when we look at the queries, one of the query which I came across, which I was discussing, there is a notice from a GST department wherein they are saying, you have these list of vendors, these list of transactions that you have claimed credit, and they are the non-filers. So when we were checking, there was a huge list of data which was presented, around 60, 70 lakhs. And when we checked, none of the credits were availed by us, to say. And all that went into wrong reporting by maybe a vendor or something. But to reply to those notices...
Just to add to what you are saying, and whatever the industry can do is to see the 3 technology companies, they are sitting outside. Correct. They are doing precisely that what you are trying to say.
Correct.
Yeah. At a
Some of
fraction
them,
of the cost.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
So it's like, we need to be prepared on time to reply to those notices. Otherwise, it's, we are just into litigations, to say, yeah.
No, I think, GST is invoice-based. Income tax is, they're taking data from 26AS and the filings that you are doing, and financial statements are Ind AS accounting-based. there is a necessity of reconciliation. These three numbers will never tie up. So, that reconciliation which was earlier done manually, now government seems to be throwing numbers at you. If you are still ending up doing it manually, the cost of doing this reconciliation and responding to notices is possibly significantly higher than using that technology and just getting done and keeping the repository available, readily available.
Correct. And adding to that, if this is faceless, and then you have a challenge in terms of how you will reply to the officer, and on the other side, how the officer will understand, what you're trying to say. You're just presenting a reconciliation. Is it going to serve a purpose? Also, when you go to appeals, it's all, as we on one side see that there have been no orders which have come out in the last 1 or 2 years. But on the other side, whenever you have a faceless CIT appeals, the officer on the other side always face the camera, onto a wall, and you're just talking to a wall. Whether he listens to you or not, you don't know. So, when you have these challenges, I would say, reconciling your data and reporting accurately becomes more relevant than to, face these challenges in future. Yeah.
So I agree with you, because this was where you were mentioning about the transaction within the department. But now where the government is sharing across each other the department, where direct tax is sharing the department with indirect tax team. And this has really created havoc. I think last year there was a notice where 26 AS revenue was being given to the authorities and to the indirect tax authorities, and all GST team were they were issuing the notice stating that yes, this is the revenue which is appearing in your 26 AS and why it is not tallying with your GST returns or with your service tax returns. So that was the havoc where I recall in our case where there are 3 plants, 3 excise registrations were taken, and the same officer has issued a 26 AS notice stating that this is the revenue at the company level, and for each individual excise numbers, this revenue is not tying up. And we got the 3 notices with the same amount signed by the same officer. So this is where the controversies are there.
Correct. And just we spoke of direct tax, we spoke of GST. Customs is coming out with Customs 2, like a GSTN. And they are going to use a blockchain technology, wherein they are going to trace each and every transaction from the port of import to the selling of your customer. So with this technology, I think there will be a lot of questions, though they are coming out with faceless. But if we are not prepared, where government is using blockchain now, and we are still on digitization and not on digitalization, I think it's the time that we bridge this gap early and be prepared. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I'll just come to the last question and very quick remarks from Mr. Sabyasachee, Mr. Partha, and Mr. Mishra. Simplified Income Tax Act is coming through. Very quickly, what would be your expectations, with these changes and the experiences that you have had?
So that's warning for me, I think, not for you. You can quickly.
No. It was only for the timing.
There will be no such simplification actually. जो होना है वो तो पता ही है ना, मतलब we can say this. I can rephrase this sweetly. So let's see if government is coming and this and that. होना नहीं है कुछ. We will be again next year sitting here and discussing this. Or 2 years down the line, what has happened after the DTC has come and all. Some simplification will be done for cosmetic purposes, because it is not that somebody is wanting to tighten you and all. It is just that it's a combination of 2-3 things. Now the government has the necessary infra to store the data and retrieve it from multiple sources. Before it was not happening, because now everything is digital. And now with different tools and all, they can match this data, and which throws this thing that what are not coming into the place. And then this was not done before. And as my colleague mentioned, that we in India are innovative people, right? So we do our innovation in taxation also. So that also makes a chance. Last month I had a discussion, I was in a one-to-one interview to Economic Times. That's what I was telling them. The cost of non-compliance is too high in terms of loss of reputation, loss of prospective employees coming, prospective customers coming to you, than the actual cost of this thing. And that non-compliance also, because of all these tools also, you won't get that kind of entry. पहले लेते थे पता है आपको 2%, 4%, एक नंबर, दो नंबर सा, वो अब नहीं मिलता, 15% देना चाहो नहीं मिलेगा. तो like that, so the cost of non-compliance is too high right now. So all of this mixing together for 1% of people who are hell-bent on doing innovative things, 99% people are screwed. So that's how it's happening in India. Right. So we all, whosoever are there, who are doing the right thing, do the right way, and focus on the business, that don't happen. The government will not let you do it because of all these XYZ reasons. Thank you.
Yeah, when you talk of simplification of income tax, my mind goes back 3 years back when they said rationalization of personal income tax. So I was really excited that, okay, fine, ultimately our personal income tax will come down. So, but when the budget came out, there were like so many slabs. And ultimately, if you follow that, what do you save? Hardly maybe 200 rupees per slab in a month, with which not even you cannot buy maybe 1 kg of rice also. So that's the situation. So that's what, unless it really comes out, we do not know what will happen and what brains will work behind that to come out with simplification. And what they mean by simplification, it's really a matter of worry actually. Thank you.
Thank you. We have? Okay, I'll be very short. Very important points made, nothing incremental. I think what is the glaring weakness or what glaringly lacks between, in the equation between the tax administrator and the taxpayer, the trust deficit. And when I mentioned that time that the origin of the tax, the genesis, that has something to do with this, I wanted to make this point, that mindset continues, that the set of people across the table, they're not equals with me, so therefore I can behave the way I want, I'm empowered. So I think when we say simplification, obviously sir has just mentioned about rationalization, whether it's the personal space or the corporate tax space. When we say simplification, we all mean that all the deductions, rebate, exemption has to go up, there has to be one system, but in the personal space itself, we have not been able to. There are two templates, they're coexisting, obviously. People, they're just, like my company, I see every month, which is beneficial to me, I stick to that template. So no matter whichever way. So in navigating, in a where you have too many options available, obviously you'll choose the menu that suits you the best. The country interest can wait. But I think the more important point is the aim of any tax reform should be where definitiveness, certainty will take precedence over what you call the subjectivity. Okay, that is what we have to achieve. So today the tax officers are unduly empowered. There has been absolutely no unanimity the way they think, the way they deal with. So therefore forget about interstate. Within the state, the officers, they feel so much what you call energetic, empowered with all that legacy ways of working. So that has to be destroyed. I think that is what, I might sound like a radical, what do you call, socialist or something like that, but that's not the case. The tax folks, they just say, just to end, like we all hear, a society which has not learned to respect its women, it's not a progressive society. Similarly, I think if we are a capitalist economy or a semi-capitalist, whatever, you must learn how to respect the people who contribute, the industriality of the country. You simply cannot target them or you can't be predisposed that whatever they are doing, they're just doing again the interest of the economy. That is something that thing has to go off. Thank you.
Yes. So that was quite insightful. Thank you for your views, all the panelists. Thank you for the audience for patiently listening and contributing. Thank you so much.
Sure, Ms. Sneha and also a fellow panelist. I would like to invite Mr. Prabodh Modak from Tata Communications to do the honors.